Hey, how's it going, guys? Ricky Summer here, and today I've come back in time to talk about Star Wars Squadrons. But first, a message from our sponsor.
Inner Rim Excavations. Building the future.
Okay, new Star Wars game coming out. You know what that means? Time to juice the algorithm. Let's go. Star Wars Squadrons. For those of you who don't know, it's a competitive 5v5 dogfighting. So it's fighters, spaceships, TIE fighters, X-Wings and whatnot. Coming out the 2nd of October, I believe. I'm pogged out of my freaking gourd for it because I'm a huge space sim boy. I love my Star Wars. I'm coming from an Elite Dangerous X4 kind of background. Star Citizen 2 to a lesser extent I haven't played in so long just because the damn thing doesn't run and it's like at this point, I don't. So in this video, there's going to be a lot of comparisons to the likes of Elite Dangerous and other space sims where relevant. Now, let's get into Star Wars Squadrons. So I've got a lot of questions about Star Wars Squadrons and no one seems to be answering them specifically, not directly. So I've done my best. I've sifted through a bunch of videos, a bunch of articles. I've tried to decipher the language to figure out exactly what is going on specifically with this flight model. I want 6 degrees of freedom. What is 6 degrees of freedom? It's 6 directions of movement in space. Forward and back, pitch, yaw, roll, lateral thrust, and vertical thrust. Those are the 6 degrees of freedom. That's what Elite Dangerous has, that's what Star Citizen has, that's what X4 has, that's what a lot of traditional space sims give you. So as far as I've been able to gather, Star Wars Squadrons does not have 6 degrees of freedom. It does not have lateral or vertical thrust. It's only got thrust, forward and back, pitch, roll, and yaw, which is like the basics you need, but I'm just so used to utilizing lateral and vertical thrust. This is going to be a culture shock for me. It's not the first game I will have played that doesn't have lateral and vertical thrust. Another game that comes to mind is Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, which also doesn't have vertical or lateral thrust, but it does have a button that will turn off flight assist, like inertial dampeners. So like let's say you're going in this direction and then you turn off flight assist and then you can spin the ship to go backwards or whatever direction you want, but you're still moving in that same direction. Elite Dangerous has this as well, X4 has this, pretty sure Star Citizen has this as well, so I think Star Wars Squadrons is going to have a similar thing. They do mention drifting. Either it's going to work exactly the way I've described, which I kind of suspect it won't. If it does work like that, I think it's going to be limited. I believe it's going to be a very limited, like inertial dampeners off sort of setting that allows you to do like these hairpin maneuvers that we're used to seeing X-Wings pull off in the movies. So this is conflicting for me. I understand why they wouldn't have included vertical and lateral thrust for 2 potential reasons. Firstly, if we want to explain it away from a canon perspective, we never actually see fighters engage vertical or lateral thrust in the movies, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't recall ever seeing an X-Wing actually go up and down or side to side. Maybe with the exception of when they're docking, but I'm assuming that it's got some sort of like docking protocol or docking computer that takes over. I don't know. But in combat, to the best of my recollection, we never actually see them strafe. Like, you got a TIE fighter here and the X-Wings going, you know, and they're like kind of just doing this strafe and run sort of thing. I don't remember seeing anything like that. We do see them sort of like almost like turn off their inertial dampeners. Like we don't actually see them like press a button and do it as far as I remember, but we do see them sort of like do this drift, this skid kind of thing, which I think is what they're trying to emulate in this game. So from a canon perspective, that makes sense. But from a gameplay perspective, I think they haven't included vertical or lateral thrust for 2 reasons. Firstly, accessibility. It's going to be difficult to sell this game to a casual crowd, because let's face it, it's Star Wars. They're marketing it towards the mainstream. You can't not. It's a Star Wars game, right? And that's why it's kind of a very weird game. It's weird that it even exists, and we'll talk about that in a second, but it's marketed towards the mainstream, so they can't make the flight model too difficult. We've already got 4 degrees of movement, 4 degrees of freedom. To add another 2 might be overwhelming. I've got another note on that in a second, but again, we'll get to that more in the why this is a weird game kind of perspective. The other reason they might not have included it is because of this, the controller. This is a cross-platform game. It's coming out on the PS4 and Xbox, presumably the next-gen consoles as well. Let's think about it. How do you fly a ship on a controller, right? You've got like, what, let's say pitch, roll, yaw, or you could do like yaw with the triggers, and then like you really only have one axis left for thrust. You might do like vertical thrust. I mean, that's how I've got it set up whenever I use a controller for Elite Dangerous. And to be clear, using a controller in Elite Dangerous is actually a very nice experience. It works. You don't feel that hindered, and there are ways to get around it using special button mappings and whatnot to give you more control when you're docking, for example. It is doable, but I just think from an ease of accessibility standpoint, that's one of the reasons they haven't included lateral or vertical thrust. And as much as it makes me sad, I fully expected it, and I understand why they've done it. So this means I've got to get used to flying without strafing again. Oh good. Listen, I'm coming from Elite Dangerous. As I said before, I was a huge fan of the CQC, Close Quarters Combat, the arena. I'm so dismayed that never took off. The game still exists. You can still play CQC, but no one's playing it. I can't get a game just because there's no one playing it. It was a really cool idea, and it was basically Star Wars Squadrons light. But you know, it had the full flight model of Elite Dangerous, which in my opinion, while it's not perfect, is currently the best, most polished flight model in any space sim. That is my opinion. Star Citizen might be a little more detailed, but just from the fact that I can't even run the game anymore, I'm not going to include it in my comparison. Okay, so let's talk about why this is a weird game. And leading up to this topic, we need to talk about some of the other options you have when flying your fighter. So in addition to throttle up, throttle down, roll, pitch up and down, your left and right, our 4 degrees of freedom, we also have drifting, of course, and we have the ability to manage power. What? This is usually kind of a pseudo-hardcore space sim feature. You have this option in Elite Dangerous. Pretty sure you have it in Star Citizen. Anyway, I don't know, I can't remember. You've even got it in Rebel Galaxy. I think the flight model of Rebel Galaxy is actually going to be very analogous to Star Wars Squadrons, just as a side note. So if you're familiar with that game, you might know what to expect here. Anyway, so we can manage our power, which means boosting power to shields, engines, weapons, and it works actually a little bit differently from the likes of Elite Dangerous. In Elite Dangerous, you just go ba 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 ba, all pips in engines, and you go faster. That happens here as well, but there's also seems to be some sort of like recharge mechanic. So if you put all your power into engines, after a certain amount of time, it'll like fill up a meter, and then once it maxes out, you can use boost or something like that. With shields, you can actually like increase your shields overall, like you can go over shields, however that manifests. And with weapons, you can overcharge them to presumably do more damage, which is really interesting. That's actually one level deeper than what I'm used to in games like Elite Dangerous. So it's a little bit unclear whether we have granular control over power balancing, meaning can we put like 1/3 of our power into engines and 2/3 into weapons? I don't know. I actually haven't been able to find any specific information that confirms or denies that. But what is certain is we have the ability to go max engines, max weapons, max shields throughout the game. Furthermore, we also have the ability to focus our shields in the fore or aft of our fighter. That means the front of the fighter or the back of the fighter. So maybe you're being chased, so you bump all your shields to the aft so that you're more defended back there where you're being shot, or you're going in for an attack run, so you move all your shields to the front so you can take a few more hits while you're going in for your attack run. That's cool. That sort of shit isn't in Elite Dangerous or Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, or it might actually be in Star Citizen. I need to stop mentioning Star Citizen because I haven't played it in so long. I've completely forgotten what is involved in that game. So we're starting to get to the core of my point here in how this is a weird game. Concessions have been made for the sake of accessibility, but on the other hand, you've got these pseudo-hardcore space sim features that you expect to find in much deeper games, or sometimes don't find in those deeper games at all, like the ability to actually choose where your shields are focused or having power management. That's not something I really expected from this game, but we have that. So like what's going on with this game? You know, like it's Star Wars, so it's mass market. It has to be. They can't get around that. But it gives you quite detailed control over your ship. And that's not an easy thing to wrap your head around. Honestly, I think this is a test. This is a big old dirty test. It's got no microtransactions. It's a limited scope game. They've said that they're not planning to actually add any additional content after release. That's what I've read as of, I think, a few weeks ago. So it's not a live service game, no microtransactions. It's a $40 game, $40 US, so not a full price game. I honestly think this game is a test to see if we like this sort of shit. This is EA going, alright, you bastards, if you don't like Battlefront, we'll give you something friggin' weird and unique that you've been bitching and moaning about. And then if you don't like it, then we got an excuse to say, So here's hoping Star Wars Squadrons is worthy of our admiration, of our playtime, of our hard-earned money, and as a result, we can in good conscience support it. Give it our Republic credits and our precious time, sending a transmission straight to EA headquarters saying, yo, give us the weird shit, give us the niche experiences, let us be your friggin' fighter pilot. And then they're like, aight, and they keep giving us stuff like this. My fondest hope is that this game is good enough and popular enough that they decide to flip-flop and go, okay, let's add post-release content. Let's go. More maps, more ships, maybe. I don't think I necessarily need more ships, but more customization options for the ships that are included. That would be nice, because we do have the option to build a loadout essentially, and it seems like on the support ships in particular, the U-Wing, for example, we have a lot of options to define its role, whether it's like essentially a healer or a disruptor, or it can drop turrets, which is very cool. I'm actually most excited to play support. That might be my kind of class. But look, it's freaking me out a little bit. It's freaking me out vis-a-vis just the contradictions here, the concessions that have been made for accessibility, and then the fact that it is also falling into what would normally be described as a very niche genre, niche game style. So, I mean, I'm not mad. This is cool. I love that this thing is coming out, and it's shaping up to be, you know, as deep as I would want it to be. I'm just like, it's 2020, dude. We're living in the darkest timeline, and that timeline just happens to include an EA Star Wars game that might actually be good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about whether it's a sim or an arcade game. It's neither, in my opinion, and I think that's what the devs are going for. I've read that the devs are not really focused with making the game fit into any specific genre. They're just trying to make an immersive Star Wars fighter pilot experience, and that's cool. I can respect that, and I hope that's what they deliver, because that's what I want to play. To that end, it seems like they're giving us options for greater immersion, for a greater sense of playing a sim. What those options are, we don't yet know. So what's coming next is pure speculation. All we know for sure is the devs have said that they're going to give us options to increase immersion. So what might some of those options be? So I've seen from some other people's videos, people who have actually played the game, they've said that there's no targeting assist, meaning there's no like little UI element telling you where to shoot so you can hit your target. There's also no aim assist. I find that hard to believe. I believe that that's going to be an option. It's also possible that that won't be an option on PC and only on console. It's hard to say, but I believe one of the options we're going to have control over regarding immersion is whether we use aim assist, targeting assist, maybe even auto power management. I'm just thinking about all the little things that would make and I don't mean this negatively, a casual Star Wars fan go, ooh, I don't want to play this. I think we're going to have those options. So those who are not deep, sim fans are going to be able to just jump into a cockpit and shoot some TIE fighters, because ultimately that's what most people want, I think, while at the same time catering to those of us who want a little more of a challenge by turning off aim assist, turning off HUD elements, which we know we can do. You can actually just play the game based on the cockpit elements, like they're accurate, which is very nice. I love that little attention to detail. It's wild, dude. It's a wild time to be alive. Another thing that I picked up was differences between the New Republic and the Empire. Apparently there are subtle differences. They're not like one-to-one carbon copies of each other across the classes, which is nice to see. Apparently the New Republic ships are going to be generally more durable, because either their shields are more durable or they have shields. Because I think, in the canon, traditionally, TIE fighters don't have shields, so I'm not sure if that's going to be the case in Squadrons, if they're like retrofitting them with shields, which I think is probably likely, or they just don't have shields at all, and then in that case, what does the shield energy management do for TIE fighters. I don't know. I think TIE fighters are probably going to have shields, just weaker shields. And on the Empire side, the Empire ships are going to be generally more agile and they're going to hit harder. So they're going to be your hit and run, your aggressive side, whereas the New Republicans may be a little more defensive. That's an interesting dynamic, and I'm excited to see how that plays out. I think I'm going to be an Empire man myself. So speaking of being an Empire man, there are no microtransactions, as we all know, but there are customization options, not just with the loadout, but also visually, and these will be unlocked, supposedly, as you play the game, whether that's in the single-player campaign, which has an alternating story between New Republic and Empire, by the way, or if they're unlocked in multiplayer. I think probably a mixture of both. So what's interesting is you can actually turn off other people's customization, so you don't have to see that pink-ass TIE fighter coming in and ruining your life, making you feel like less of a man, just grinding up your testosterone and snorting it up one nostril to fuel its own pinked-up savage power dominating the server. You don't have to deal with that if you don't want to. You can keep it lore-friendly. But I just want you to know that I will be that pink TIE fighter ruining your life. No, I'm going to be a purple TIE fighter, and I'm still going to ruin your life. So when you see a purple TIE fighter out there, you know it's me. And lastly, I want to mention the music, because I don't see anyone talking about the music, and damn it, man, it used to be about the music, and now no one cares about the music. So let's talk about the music. It's a John Williams score, which of course, like, it has to be, right? I don't know whether it's going to be like original music for the game. I kind of hope it is for a couple different reasons. Firstly, it'd just be nice to have some original music for the game, and secondly, I don't want to get copyright struck. So if they're just using music from the movies, I will have to turn off the music for the sake of YouTube videos, but hey, that's my problem, that's not your problem. But for those of you who can actually play with the music on, apparently it's using a layered dynamic music system, which means the score is actually going to sweep in and out, flow in and out, depending on whether you're winning or losing. So you'll actually be able to tell whether you're winning or losing based on what the music sounds like, which is nice. I love it when they add systems like that, give the music a dynamic feel. I mean, the rest of the game is interactive. Why can't the music be interactive as well? So I'm excited for that. I hope it really makes you feel like you're in one of the movies, in one of the dogfighting scenes. That'd be oh buddy, Star Wars. Anyway, guys, that's all I wanted to talk about vis-a-vis Star Wars Squadrons. The flight model, man, I'm gonna have to get used to it. I think I'm gonna have to go back to Rebel Galaxy Outlaw and actually, like, grit my teeth and bear it and actually play through that game just to get the hang of 4 degrees of freedom. That's not actually a term, but, that's essentially what it is. 4 degrees of freedom plus the drifting. Because I need to play Squadrons, dude. I need to play it, and I need to dominate all of you. Listen, I'm actually good at dogfighting. I'm not good at shooters or any other competitive game, but I'm good at dogfighting. This could be my game. Alright guys, let me know in the comments, are you excited for Squadrons? If you get to play it, which side are you leaning towards? New Republic or Empire? But for the moment, guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to gently caress that like button. Taste the game, be excellent to each other. And I'll see you next time. Ricky Summer, out.